All right, welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in to the Gloria Bailey Ray Show. As always, we got an exciting show for you, and I am so happy that you are here to view it with me. We are streaming live on Facebook, YouTube, as well as LinkedIn. So make sure that you shout out, send a text, get people on, because the show tonight, we're going to be talking about securing contracts, working with the government. And my guest is awesome, answer all your questions. So make sure that you bring them in when you got them down, okay? That's the first thing. But again, I want to welcome you guys all to the show tonight and remind you that the show is about providing you, the viewer, with relevant, fact based, mainstream information to help you be informed and to make informed decisions. This is about you. You get out of it what you put into it, all right? So, with that being said, not only is the show interactive, you're able to ask questions, put your questions in the comment box, and my guest, I will share them with him and be able to get you answers. Okay. I love that. That's a great feature, and people really tend to enjoy that. I want to give a shout out though. Let me take a minute to let's just say, hey, I was looking at some of you. I want to shout out to those of you who are in Malaysia. I want to shout out to you who are in the Philippines, Burundi. I think I'm pronouncing that. So thank you guys so much for watching. I am honored, and all of you, all my brothers and sisters here in Africa, thank you so much for being here and watching the show live. Be sure and tell others, tell a friend, be there. If you miss today's segment, you can always go back and watch us on YouTube. Show is up there. Go back, watch the show, and be willing to share it. All right. So, again, thank you guys for tuning in. If you haven't already done it, I'm going to ask you this. Be sure and follow me on all my social media: Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn. I am there. So, be sure and follow me, and you'll be able to also go to my website, check out the shows and what's going on. We got a lot of things that are happening. I am excited to also tell you guys, hey, look, my new book is out. That's right. You didn't get the memo, Navigating Corporate America. And for those of you who are new to the workplace, or maybe you've been around for a long time in the workplace, hadn't figured out what's going on, why you're not getting promoted, why you're having conflict, how do you deal with it? You want to get the book. So go to my website, gloriabaileyray.com, purchase the book. I see you guys are all there. I'm giving a shout out to you. Thank you guys so much for joining me. Look, I want to bring on my guest, Mr. Thomas Byrne. Thomas, I want to thank you so much for being here with me, brother. It's exciting. And I know that I had a lot of questions about working with the government. Do I want to work with the government? How do I work with the government? Why do I have all of these designations, but I'm not securing contracts? Those are all the things I'm certain people probably have. So before we jump all into that,
Mhm.
let me just ask you to give us a little bit of your backstory. Who's Thomas? And we're going to jump into all the rest of
Okay.
this.
Well, how long is the show? Because you know I got a long backstory, so I can't dig into the weeds too much. But I'll try to do a long story short kind of thing.
Okay,
Um,
Reader's Digest version.
okay,
Okay.
so I became a business owner from the route of being a sales rep. I was a sales rep, and I enjoyed the freedom, the opportunity to kind of like be my own boss. And so I took that to the next level, and I ended up representing other micro businesses and small businesses that needed professional sales representation. So I took the whole concept of a manufacturing rep and brought it down to the small business level. And it worked for quite a while with its bumps and bruises and everything. But during that, I also tried to go after some small government contracting opportunities around marketing and advertising because of some relationships I had. And it didn't work, but I learned a great deal. I ended up becoming uh, another consultant for the Veterans Business Outreach Center, which is another nonprofit entity funded by the Small Business Administration to help veterans specifically with their businesses. And so I did that, enjoyed it, um, ended up having my own other company, totally different than the sales company that I had. And then, long story short, it didn't work. Right, the company that I had for 5 years, it didn't work. It was called Spirit Cakes, and I ended up taking a lengthy break, about almost 6 months. But one of my older business partners, she basically said, "Look, I'm writing you into this contract that I'm getting with this organization called NorCal PTAC, and you're going to be the business plan writer." And I said, "Okay, sure." So we did that, and the pandemic happened, and they offered me an opportunity to become a procurement specialist because of the growth of knowledge and understanding how to help businesses of all sizes win government contracts. And so that's where I am now. It's an extremely fulfilling position, to be honest with you. I get to provide my knowledge, my resources, and see the growth of small businesses while my company pays me to do this for the clients who get everything for free.
Oh, I love it. I
Yeah.
love it.
Yeah.
All right. We already have someone who's a veteran. So, VBO, good to know. So, thank you. Thank you for
Yeah.
sharing that.
VBOC, Veterans Business Outreach Centers.
Okay, VBOC, got it.
Mhm,
All right.
mhm.
So, I want to jump in, and you kind of led into a little bit of where you are, but specifically, let's talk about how did you become really interested in securing government contracts, because you've been doing a lot of other things, right? But government is a whole different animal from what I'm told. And when I talk to people, you either love it or you hate it. They either are like, wow, there's just so much. And maybe it's the fact that people don't like the oversight. Maybe it's the fact that there's a lot of paperwork involved. But for you specifically, securing government contracts, because it's almost like you had to have a knack for understanding and knowing how to navigate those waters, so to speak.
Well, you gotta. So we're going back all the way to 2006,
Okay.
and at my company, the sales organization that I created, it was doing okay, but not great.
Hmm.
And as an entrepreneur, I'm always looking for ways to generate revenue, to grow the company.
Hmm.
And it just so happened I had some relationships and somebody brought me this opportunity. I don't even remember the agency, to be honest with you, but it was a marketing and business plan RFP, request for proposal.
Right.
And they wanted me to go in with them on writing the business plan part of it, because that's one of the things that I do for my clients.
Hmm.
I did sales work and business plan work. And so I was okay, great. This will be a good idea. And so I just dove in head first. I went to the California state at the time and got the 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 DVBE, which is the acronym for Disabled Veteran Business Enterprise Certification. Um, Understood what that meant. It just means that you have an edge against larger companies. You don't have an edge against other small businesses, but you do have an edge against the larger firms that might be competing on that same contract. And so I quickly understood that. I understood that, it's competitive. You have to write these proposals. And because I was already good at business plan writing, I felt, well, okay, this would be easy to write these proposals. Turns out it's not. Turns out it's a lot of work, and it requires a lot of trial and error. You're not going to win a contract normally on your very first proposal writing.
Hmm.
It's going to take multiples and multiples, but there are examples out there. There are examples of clients that do win their very first go round when they go after a government contract. So it
Right.
does happen.
Right.
And so even though I didn't win that first one, I kept at it. Right. It wasn't full time though, because I already had the private side business that I had going that I wanted to grow. And so I was trying to incorporate the government as an added
Mm,
benefit, because one of the clear benefits of winning select government contracts is the sustainability.
right.
Because normally they're 1, 2, 3, or even 5 year contracts. So as long as you perform well, you
Wow.
have that stream of income and that work coming on for 2, 3 years, which can be a lifesaver for certain businesses, depending
Mm,
on what you do. And so that's what I was always hoping for. But unfortunately, to be honest, I never secured that type of contract. I did get contracts though. I did win contracts, but it was later on. I
mhm,
want to say 2013, 2014, I started winning contracts, and it was a combination of larger, what we call prime firms,
mhm.
right? Prime firm is a Fortune 500, Fortune 1000 firm. And getting that kind of work using still certifications as a small business or a minority business to help me reach decision makers. And from that, I was able to ultimately use the sales and marketing to win certain contracts.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
what I hear is perseverance is the first thing.
Hmm.
Second thing is you got to be in it for the long haul, because I appreciate you saying that you didn't get a contract right off the bat. And I know a lot of times people vie for contracts and they get discouraged when they apply for one and say, oh, this doesn't work or it's not for me. And that certainly sounds like that is not the case at all. And then you said something that was a key word, and I hope I see all of you guys on there. Hey, Jacqueline, the thing is sustainability, because you can go after a contract and you have a product and you know how to do it, but are you able to scale it on a level
Right.
that you can really supply the things that are needed? So
Right. Yeah.
that's that's what I'm hearing you say. So for those of you who are talking in our comments, our people are saying maneuvering contracts, it's not easy, and they think it's an important topic, and I agree it's an important
Yeah.
topic. Which is why I felt like, look, let me just reach out to Thomas and say, look, would you pretty please?
I mean, there's so many different situations that can change a company's success or failure when it comes to government contracting.
Okay.
Quick examples. Let's
All right.
say product versus service, right? That alone is a really big deal, because if it's a product, then the government's going to buy at the lowest possible cost. So, can you sell this product to the government and still make a profit, even though you are going to be the lowest bidder? And you're competing depending on what the product is. But you could be competing against manufacturing firms who also might be trying to bid on that, or distributors or wholesalers. And so, where are you in that mix? You can't be a store trying to sell to the government, because you're buying it from a distributor who's buying it from a manufacturer. So, when it comes to products, you really have to be strategic and do a lot of research before you even decide, yes, this is going to work for me. Because can you make a sale to the government when it comes to a product, when you have to price it at a price that is very low and still make a profit?
Mhm.
Now, on the service side, it's totally different. It's not based on lowest price. It's based on your expertise, your resume, um, special qualifications, uh, what makes you so different than the other service-based firms. We're talking everything from, like today, I just had a client, everything from executive coaching to
Hmm.
welding, right? Welding is a service. It's not a product. Welding
Right.
is a service. And so this wide variety of service-based firms is not always, well, it's almost never based on just price alone.
Okay.
And so it's a better opportunity for small businesses, but it's still extremely competitive.
Right, right. Um, Hold that thought because that brings up another question in
Hmm.
regards to what we're talking about service-based contracts. We're going to take a really quick break, and when we come back, I'd like for you just a little more because I'm reading some of the comments,
Hmm.
and let's talk about two things: the service and how that could be one, it was talk about the different types of contracts, and the other thing was when you're talking about a service-based contract, right,
Okay.
then let's talk about how people may be able to partner or if that's a possibility of those kinds of things. But we're going to take a quick break. You guys all know that this is Autism Month, and I personally have autistic family members, and it's near and dear to my heart. So, guys, loosen up and be sure and make a donation to the Autism Awareness or Autism Foundations. Here we go. Don't go anywhere.
With Julia's autism, loud sounds can be too much.
But she still loves to make music.
Yeah.
Play band.
Early screening for autism can make a lifetime of difference. Find out more at screenforautism.org.
All right. If you guys are just tuning in, and I want to thank you that are here hanging out and asking questions about my guest, Mr. Thomas Burns. We are talking about securing contracts with the government. And before we went to that quick short break, one of the things that I wanted to ask Thomas is when someone is applying for a service contract, is it possible? Let's just say you use an example, executive coach.
Hmm.
However, the government has, say, some of their top leaders that need executive coaching. You're one person. Would that individual that's vying for that contract, could it be written where you're able to subcontract, if that's the correct word,
It
with
is.
other people? So can you talk about that a little bit?
Sure, sure. Yeah, you definitely can do subcontracting within government. Quickly, I just wanted to say this: when we talk about government, we're talking about the U.S. federal government. We're also talking about all the states, cities, counties, transportation agencies, and school districts. I had a client that didn't realize that a university is technically a government agency because they exist based off of our tax dollars. So understanding that how wide it is, let's use on one side, let's use a large federal agency like a military base, and they want to provide executive coaching to 500 people over a territory covering all of the West Coast. You're one person. How are you going to do this if you bid on this contract? So one idea is to quickly hire or subcontract with the understanding that they only would be part of this if you win the bid. And so by subcontracting or hiring, you're going to get their pricing. So you're going to know how many hours that will be needed. You will need to know all of these details, and then you put all that into the bid. The government is okay with you as a one person operation winning a contract as long as you can show that your subcontracting capabilities is covering the bulk of it or what is needed. Now, remember though, some contracts will require you as the company to perform 50%, 60%, 70%, and then they will mandate that you can only subcontract X amount. But that's a devil in the details kind of thing, and it depends on the contract. But
Mhm.
yeah, you can contract, you can subcontract out almost 100% of a project, depending on what the rules are. And
Right.
that's another thing. The rules are very fluid,
Okay.
very
Okay.
fluid.
All right. I have a kind of a question and a comment from one of my viewers. They said that they tried working for the VA as an independent contractor, a psychologist, and it didn't go well. And the
Okay.
question is, how or where do I even start?
With going after. more contracts?
I would assume, yeah, as an independent contractor, if you're a
Okay.
psychologist and you want to go after government contracts, because we all know that
Yeah.
there's a shortage of
I would
psychologists and
say this.
psychiatrists
The
everywhere.
starting point is your entity. You know, are you a sole proprietor, or have you created an LLC or a corporation? Um, the second step is doing your market research. By and large, that's got to be the main thing you do before you just step out there and say, I'm going after XYZ contracts. Market research. What agencies are hiring for the work that I want to do? How much work is available within that agency or within these groups of agencies? Like I just said, you have the entire federal government, all of the states, cities, counties, school districts, transportation agencies. It is massive. So you have to focus on a small section to figure out how to get into the system. And the only way to do that is with market research first. Once you've done that, though, and you've identified, as the example was, the Veterans Administration. Okay, great. So the VA is where I'm going to focus my energy. Now, as we know, or you may not know, but during your research, you'll learn that within the VA, there are not just the hospitals, but there are the VA, what we call like retirement centers or retirement homes. And just like in California, I don't know the exact number because I don't remember it off the top of my head, but I remember the list. And the list is like in the 30s or 40s. There might be 30 different hospitals and VA retirement centers in California. There's another 20 or 30 in Texas, and on and on and on. So again, that alone will force you to focus on certain states, certain territories. Once you do that, then you have to make the connections with the buyers and what they call the small business specialist, right? Especially if you're talking about the federal government, then you have to understand who is making the decisions, what do they require, and when will these contracts come up next.
Mhm.
So in the situation that you just described with the psychologist, if he's looking to do this again, when will they come out again? When will these bids come out? If they're utilizing that process, because I'm a little unclear on whether or not it was a job kind of situation or it was an actual contract that they put out to bid. If
Mhm.
it's a bidding process, when do those contracts come out again? And all of this information is available for free.
Okay. So with that, with bidding contracts, it is my understanding that there has to be transparency. So there's a site that you could go to see who won the bid. Is that correct? Do
Not
they?
only more than anything, you can reach out to the agency that awarded the contract and ask for the bid.
Oh, okay.
You can ask who won and can I see that information? And this is based on the Freedom of Information Act.
Mm,
Now, the only caveat to that is you have to have a viable reason. And so by you being in the industry, going after government contracts based off of that one, like you can't be a welder and I want to look at this contract that was based on
right,
accounting. That doesn't make sense. They can tell you no, you don't have a reason for it.
right,
But
right.
if it's a welding contract that I bidded on or that I missed because I was too late and I want to see it, then they would have to do that for you.
Okay. We have another question from one of the viewers is how do we break the good old boy system?
Um, networking. networking. I understand what you're talking about. I really do. And I'm not going to say that it doesn't exist because um, corporations do still generate the lion's share of contracts throughout the United States. And the big reason for that is because these agencies, when they write these contracts up or these proposals, a lot of times they write them up very large, right? It's $1 million, $5 million, $10 million, $100 million contracts that put us small businesses completely out of the game, except as maybe a subcontractor. So you have to look for opportunities that fit your niche. And then you do the networking with the buyers to let them know you exist, and you break in and you can show them your professionalism with your marketing materials.
Okay. All right. Thank you for that. So with that, let's talk about, we're talking about government contracts, but do businesses, excuse me, are businesses vying for a government contract, are they required to be vetted? Do they vet them?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm. So, for example, on the federal side, you have to start with what's called sam.gov. Not sure if your audience or if you are aware of sam.gov,
Hmm.
but anybody who is going after or has a federal contract, they are registered as a business or a vendor in sam.gov.
Right.
That same system applies for states, cities, counties, any agency. If you want to do business with them, you have to first go to their website normally and register as a vendor. When you're registering, they're asking you specific questions and information. How long you've been in business? How many employees? What's your revenue? What's your qualifications? A list of questions, and you answer them truthfully, and that's the starting point. But then the second step is, okay, they're put out an RFP for um, accounting services, right? And you want to go after that contract as a small accounting firm. Within that RFP, they're going to ask you, I want to see who have you done business with? Explain in detail how you would handle this contract, because it's a year-long contract. Um, let me see your resume.
Hmm.
Do you have technical capabilities that can validate what we're trying to do to make sure that we pick the right company to do this job? It's that kind of vetting that they do.
Okay.
Now, you're normally, when I hear vetting, I'm hearing you're trying to be hired by a company and they're going to investigate your background. That doesn't really happen on that level in government contracting. It's about the proposal you submit, and you're competing against 10, 20, whatever number of other companies that are putting in a proposal for that contract. The
Hmm.
best proposal wins.
Okay.
Yeah.
But can we go back to something that you said to the viewer who asked about breaking the good old boy system? And
Oh, I'd love to. Yeah.
you said network. Well, the question becomes, someone got this contract that lives in, let's say, Norfolk, Virginia,
Okay.
and this individual's on the West Coast.
Okay.
So are you saying that they should reach out to that particular entity? Because see, one of the things that happen, people love to do business with people that they've known, good, bad, and indifferent. It's kind of like the devil that you know is better than the devil that you don't know, kind of thing
Well,
as well. So how would they go
yeah.
about that?
So there's it's going to be hard to condense everything within
Right.
this interview, but let me try to. So it depends on the size of the contract. I'll try to use another good example. A
Okay.
janitorial firm. This is a good example because of what you're talking about. I have a janitorial firm. I'm in California. I've got I've got 10 good contracts here on the West Coast, and I'm looking to expand all over the United States. One of the things janitorial firms do well is they will bid on an upcoming contract out there on the East Coast. And they're looking at that proposal and they're saying, okay, this was a 2-year contract and it's now coming up for bid again. And the company that had the contract, they're obviously probably going to bid on it again, but they're not guaranteed to win it. because it's based on best price, best service, and the best proposal. So if I'm great at writing proposals and I can really beat them on price some kind of way, I know I can win that. So I do that. And lo and behold, I do win. Now, how am I going to manage that contract from California? The answer, and what I've seen with my own eyes, is what they'll do is, as soon as they are known that they are the winner, they reach out to that company that was doing the contract. Just right now, they're still doing it, but they're going to be phasing them out and hiring you. What they do is they go to the employees who's currently doing the janitorial work and offer to hire them and just bring them on to the company and make some changes on a managerial level and keep things rolling. I've seen that in many different ways, whether it's janitorial for a building or for bus stops or for train stations. You know, the government is okay, more than okay, with switching from one vendor to another when the new RFP comes out and a new company offers a better proposal.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. Thank you so much. That just something that stuck with me, and I'm like, wait a minute. Thank you so much. My viewer was saying that makes sense. So
But did I give a good enough
yeah,
explanation to understand how this can work,
yeah.
from going from one coast to the other, or even agencies?
Hmm.
We're here in California. California has 233 departments, each one with their own budget. The total budget that California spends on goods and services is, I believe it's $15 billion.
Right.
Out of that, they've been able to document that $3 billion is spent with specifically disabled veteran business enterprises and small businesses.
Okay.
And so when I say focus, I mean figure out where you can find a niche and stick with that,
Right.
because it's way too big to say I'm going to do business with the Army, the Navy. I'm gonna go after the Coast Guard. I'm gonna go after some state agencies. I'm gonna go after my local city. How big is your workforce? How big is your marketing budget? Can you really do that kind of marketing on that level, or should you laser focus on a city, county, university, or state agency?
Yeah, that totally makes sense. And yeah, the response was yes, you hit the nail on the head. So definitely. When we come back, I'll go through this a lot quicker, but I thought that it was important that people understand, because what I'm hearing, and on the good side of the company that lost the contract, in my example, say in Norfolk, Virginia, there's not going to be a break in employment for the employees, because
Nope.
guess what? The only thing is, like you said, we just
Change management,
you change management,
change
and
management and
you still
ownership.
go out and do what you need to do, and you still have a job. So for me, it's still a win-win. That's definitely a win-win. But when we come back, let's talk about um, one of the things is what exceptions are we, and we kind of covered that, but what are maybe some of the exceptions that stand out to you that you've been around doing for a very long time? And what are the top three things? We've already talked about it, but I need you, if we can encapsulate it into what are those three things? And I'm not only asking, but I'm asking for a friend, I'm asking for myself, really and truly, because when you think about having a business, you are a minority owned, you're a woman owned, you are a minority supplier, diversity supplier person, all of these things, you got all these designations, but pulling them together. So when we come back, and I see your question, Mr. Rogers. When we come back, we'll talk about that, and we'll start with Mr. Rogers' questions. We'll just take a really quick break, and you guys don't go anywhere. We'll be right back, okay? We are tuned in with Mr. Thomas Byrne on the Gloria Bailey Ray Show, and he is breaking it down for us. So stay tuned, you guys. Don't go anywhere.
Get it, slip it, cough it, check. to doctor now and share it. Get it, slip it, cuff it, check it. Talk to doctor now and share it. Gonna get it, gonna slip it, gonna cuff it. Check it, talk to doctor and share it. Gonna get it, gonna slip it, gonna cuff it. Check it, talk to doctor and share it.
Get it, slip it, cuff it, check it. High blood pressure silently affects millions of Americans. Staying on top of your blood pressure is as simple as these 4 easy steps. Self-monitoring is power. Visit manageyourbp.org to learn more.
All right, I want to thank you guys so much for hanging in here and answering questions and getting them answered. The question from the viewer before we went to break, Thomas, was how is it that the DoD organization that released a contractor, but then they changed their names, but they just retain the same workforce? So I think what the viewer is saying is that there was a contractor who had a DoD contract, but they released that contractor. So apparently that contractor didn't get the contract that they previously had again, but they changed their name and they came back and they retained the same workforce. So
no, there's no way for me to give a really clean answer without knowing all of the details. I can tell you this, especially in the federal government, they're controlled by what's called the FAR and the DFAR, Federal Acquisition Regulations. And so they're supposed to work within the limits of the FAR regulations or the DFAR regulations. And they give them wide latitude to do a number of things. Everything from not having to put out any kind of contract, but just a purchase order when they're buying things that are around $10,000 or less, to awarding a contract with just 2 bids or 3 bids to a small business, a certified small business, as long as it's not over $250,000, which in my opinion can be great opportunities for the small business community. You know, that's called a simplified acquisition. And so there are so many different ways that the federal government, utilizing the FAR regulations, can do a multiple of things that might seem weird, but it's within their legal right to do so.
Yeah. So, and I see a comment was, sounds like they rebranded themselves. So,
which is fine, right? It's a business decision.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. You guys know the Gloria Bailey Ray show was just rebranded after 9 years. So it happens. That's the thing. It does happen. But one of the things that I before we went to break, I just said, if you're able to just kind of encapsulate from your perspective and what you've known and working and dealing in this arena for a very, very long time, it's what are the top 3 things that you would say that a person or a small business trying to enter into the government contracting, what are those top three things? You already talked about, first of all, you know, are you really a legitimate business? Are you an LLC? And we won't even get into, you know, LLC versus a S Corp and a C Corp and all of that. That's another, probably another show. But are you a business? Are you a legitimate business? Or you registered? Those kinds of things. But are there 3 things that kind of just stick out?
I would say number 1 would be past performance. The government is risk adverse. And a lot of times when we give these presentations, because we do a lot of webinars at NorCal PTAC and everything, and that's one of the main questions. How do I get a contract if I don't have any past performance with the government? And the answer is you've got to go out and prove that you can do this work maybe in the private side, or you're going to look for the smallest type of government entity that will give you a shot, like cities, like school districts. That's why I keep harping on that. It's not going after the federal government as your first go round. You want to start local, start small to show that you can get past performance. But that's a big deal. The government, if there are 4 bids coming in, and my bid shows that I started the company a year ago and I don't have any real past performance to show that I've been doing this work. But the other 3 companies have years or months of past performance. They're going to look at them and award them a contract. So that would be the number one key. Don't start your new business going after government contracts. You want to start going after government contracts after you have generated some past performance. Number 2, take advantage of all the opportunities the government does offer you, such as certifications, whether it's a veteran certification, a woman-owned certification, a minority certification, or just a small business certifications. They all offer you an edge against larger competitors. Number 3, keep at it. Stay focused, right? You can't, like in my situation, I wasn't able to dedicate all of my energy towards government contracting. So of course, I had a private, I was working with a lot of private companies, generating revenue, and I went after government contracting piece by piece by piece, and it took me a while. If you can afford to put more energy into government contracting, do so. But if you need to go slowly because you just can't afford to ignore the private side and the companies that you got now, we get that, and I understand that. But stick with it as best you can.
Okay.
Depending on your budget and your system. Every company's different. One company might have a staff of 20 people and they can devote 2-3 people towards just government. Another company's only got 4 staff and it's just the owner.
Okay. Good. So where do people go to look for these government contracts? What's the website? Is it just
Okay. Well, so
usgovernment.org or what?
you ready? You ready? Okay.
Okay,
So
go.
on the federal side, they have to use everything comes through sam.gov. So you go to sam.gov and you click on one of the links that says contract opportunities, and that's where you see the majority of all federal contracting opportunities on sam.gov. Now, if you want to see what was awarded in the past on the federal side, you go to usaspending.gov. And on USA Spending, you can use keywords, you can use all different types of filters to look up where the money has been going, who's been winning the contracts, how much are they, what's the timeline, and what agency is awarded these contracts. It is a site that I use almost every day with my clients. It's one of the best sites that the government has created to share information about what they're doing to the community, to us. On the state side, every state has their own website for showing their contract opportunities. In California, it's called caleprocure.ca.gov. And then, of course, depending on who else you want to talk to, whether it's a university, a city, a county, they all have a general services or a doing business with us page. And that's where you would go to look up contract opportunities and registering yourself as a vendor.
Okay. That's key. Being registered as a vendor.
You got to be registered as a vendor. Yeah. You got to be, if you're going to be serious about a certain entity or organization, whether it's a university or the U.S. Army, once you decide that, you definitely register as a vendor, and then the networking starts. And I mentioned that before in relation to the Good Old Boy Network.
Right.
It's, I'll put it this way. There are new people who are contracting officers all the time. There are new people who are managers in positions all the time. Now, will they treat their job in a system in a way where they're just going to do the bare minimum? Of
Mhm.
course you have those kind of people. Of course, that's in every industry. You've got that. But you also have those contracting officers and managers who care about awarding contracts to good small businesses
Right.
and are willing to take a little bit of a risk and are willing to try. But you got to meet them halfway. And the way to do that is to reach out to them. You got to find them. They're
Mhm.
not going to be out there with a sign saying, "Hey, I'm looking for small businesses. Come work with me."
Right.
You've got to reach out to them.
Okay. Um,
Wh-
and I see. Is there a link where I can find a listing of all of those links? A site where I can find a listing. So after the show, I'll double check with Thomas. I was writing as he was talking, and I'll just make sure that I got it correct, and I will post it up on my pages so that you will have them if that works. Is that okay, Thomas?
Yeah, of
Yeah,
course.
is that okay?
As you've seen on across the screen, that I'm connected with NorCal PTAC, which is now called Apex Accelerators.
Right.
This is a government funded entity, right?
Mm,
We're funded by the federal government to do just this kind of work for free, and every state has them. So in California, there are 7 of us because it's such a large state. But
right.
every state has their own Apex Accelerator, and a simple Google search looking for either PTAC or Apex Accelerator will pull up those in your state.
Yeah. And throughout this, I have been flashing Thomas's information. There's his email. You can connect with him. You can connect with him on LinkedIn. And that's where a lot of people go to. So definitely LinkedIn. And
Oh,
there's
can I give you
YouTube.
another tip about LinkedIn?
Yeah,
As
sure.
far as I know, 90% of all government entities have a LinkedIn page.
Mm,
So I don't care if it's the Army or some, maybe except for the Pentagon and stuff like that, right?
right.
But all federal agencies have a LinkedIn page that also lists their all the employees. So if you know how to use LinkedIn, you can go to, well, pick on the U.S. Army some more. U.S. Army, pick on a certain base, they'll have a LinkedIn page. And then you can click on the employees, the people that work at this place, and then you can do a search for the titles. And if
Wow.
you're looking for contract specialists, they'll all pop up.
Oh, great. Oh,
LinkedIn
wow.
is powerful.
Yeah.
And,
Great.
and that same thing works with cities, counties. I've tested it, and LinkedIn, government loves LinkedIn. They may
Yeah.
not utilize Facebook and Twitter and all that much, but they love LinkedIn.
LinkedIn. Yeah,
Mhm.
definitely. Wow, that is great, great, great information. So I will make sure that we have those links out there for everyone. So let's go back. I know our time is getting short, but you said something at the
Okay.
very beginning of the show, and we were talking about minorities. That, they're set aside a certain
Mhm.
amount for minorities, and I personally feel. If you see my emails, I'm very proud of my certifications, and this is where I'm going. Why, if you are a minority woman or if you're a disabled veteran, get those certifications, or if you're a veteran, those certifications, I think, hold a lot of weight. And for me, being a minority woman business enterprise and being just a woman business enterprise, I found that has worked a lot for me. Your
So
thoughts?
my comment is definitely, if you do, I mean, and you do, if you're a small business, you qualify for a certification.
Hmm.
But you have to take it beyond that. You can't just get the certification and expect your phone to ring.
Right.
Doesn't work that. But I coach clients all the time. I got these certifications. They'll have multiple. They'll have an 8A. They'll have a 8A, a SB, and a woman-owned certification.
Mhm.
And they're like, well, nothing's happening. I said, because you're not utilizing it correctly.
Right.
It's not designed to just open the floodgates and contracting officers are throwing you opportunities. When you bid and you have a qualifying bid proposal, they look at your certification and say, you know what? We're going to give them a 5% advantage, and maybe you the only woman-owned small business that put in a bid. Or better yet, they'll create what we call set-aside contracts just for women-owned small businesses.
Oh,
So
okay.
if you're in executive coaching and you want to know what federal agency is awarding set-aside contracts to women-owned small businesses, you can do usaspending.gov research or go back to sam.gov and look that up.
Okay.
And that goes for whatever the industry is. I just use that, but it could be anything.
Right. No, I mean, that's absolutely great information. I'm telling you. And then the fact I just have to like say, ding, 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 wait a minute. And I want to make sure I heard you say, as Apex Accelerator, what you're doing is for free. So
It's for free.
people can call you up and say, Mr. Burns, I need to make
Well,
an appointment with
no,
you.
no,
How does that work?
no. What they can do is they can sign up for free services if
Okay.
they're in our territory.
Okay.
That's what I meant by there's 96 of them throughout the United States.
Hmm.
So if one of your guests are in Chicago, they
Right.
have to go to the Apex Accelerator in Chicago.
Right. Right.
Our territory is the San Francisco Bay Area and the Northern California West Coast side up to the Oregon border.
Right.
So Humboldt County, Napa, all of that, all the way down to the Bay Area. But there's another one that's covering Sacramento and San Joaquin County, and there's another one that's covering San Bernardino and LA and San Diego. So there's coverage all over the United States with these organizations that provide the same free services that I'm talking about.
Right, right. And we have people on here from, from Texas,
Yeah.
these Texas, Africa, I mean, all over. So people
Mhm.
are on that. But you just heard, just go to the site and figure out where you are and find that individual. But the fact that it is a service that is being provided, I mean, I'm like ecstatic to even hear that. So, with that being said, guys, this has been just awesome information. But I need to just ask you, Thomas, we jumped in and talked about your backstory and all of this, but you know what? Who or what is your inspiration? Tell us,
Oh, you know, I have been a fan of the small business community ever since I want to say 1999. I mean, when I first started in sales, I was an introvert. I was a guy that just, I was doing the bare minimum and everything. And I discovered the joy of making a sale. And then I discovered the joy of writing business plans and being an entrepreneur. And so what really makes me tick and what I really enjoy is helping others also see that success with their company and in their lives. Um, I used to have these goals and dreams of being a multimillionaire and achieving, 100 million, 50 million. And those were great. I mean, those are great goals. And it propelled me to be a self-disciplined, motivated entrepreneur, regardless of the win and lose categories that I was going through in that process. But now, I get a chance to educate for free, basically giving people information that don't understand as well as they probably need to, the sales and marketing aspect of business. Everybody's great at what they do, but are they also great in the sales and marketing aspect? Are they great with proposal writing and business plan writing? Gloria, as we can be great in one area, but we need help in all these other areas to really be successful.
Amen.
And I like providing that area. I'm not here to tell my clients how to be a better mechanic. I'm just here to help them understand how to promote themselves in a way so that their mechanic business can grow to a level that they want.
Right.
And that is my passion now. That, and of course, traveling the world.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
Definitely. So
We've
what do
talked about that. So yeah.
yeah, absolutely. I'm right there with you. What is it that you want people who are watching the show today? What do you want them to take away from our conversation?
If you're really interested in government contracting, do the upfront work of market research. I want to, that would be the number one takeaway. Do the upfront work of market research. The internet is such a powerful tool. I mean, in 1 hour or 2 hours, there's so much information you can accumulate by just doing some good quality market research, because that's going to tell you which way to go. It's going to tell you to go left, right, up, down, what to do next about this desire to go after the government contracting opportunities out here. That will be my number one thing. And then, of course, looking for free services such as Apex Accelerators wherever you're located.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. So, Thomas, first of all, thank you so much for being here.
Mhm.
I am truly humbled and grateful, and I'm so glad that we have had an opportunity to reconnect. And I look forward to us continuing to build on this friendship and business relationship that we have. I
Yes.
don't want you to log out. Don't go anywhere.
Okay.
I'll
Okay.
come right back. So hang there with me for a minute, okay? I want to say to each and every one of you, first of all, thank you guys so much for hanging in here, being here, for your questions. And I really want to stress, you guys, this is about providing you, the viewer, with relevant, fact based, mainstream information to help you be informed and to make informed decisions. It's not about me. It's not about being seen. It's about helping my people, helping my community, helping those people who need help. And that's what this show literally does for each and every one of you. I want to remind all of you to support our efforts. We have a sponsorship package. You can reach out to me at gloriabaileyray.com if you want information and support what it is that we're doing. If you're not in the space to become a sponsor, then you can still support. Whatever you give, it will always be received with gratefulness. So know that. There is a blessing, by the way, in giving, in case you didn't know that. I want to also remind you guys, working on my book signing. But in the meantime, if you want to get your book first and then attend the book signing and get it autographed, by all means, go to gloriabaileyray.com. That is the website, and purchase your book. Whatever you do, I want to remind each and every one of you to be kind, to show support, to know that there's always a blessing in everything that you do when you do it from the bottom of your heart. Be sure and like me, follow me on Facebook, follow me on YouTube, follow me on LinkedIn, you guys, and tell others about this awesome show. If you're looking for some spiritual, motivational inspiration, tune in on Thursdays from 6 to 6:30. It's only 30 minutes. You can catch me on YouTube and join that conversation as well. As I always say, it's been a blast. If you didn't take anything away from today's show, then it's really you who didn't get the memo. I'm Gloria Bailey Ray, your host. Thank you so much for being here. God bless you all. Until this time next week, be well.